Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. I'm sorry, I kind of got caught up with things around here. Um, like I told y'all before, we had a blizzard and it's just crazy. It's crazy. They haven't even come down our street to plow it yet. So it's one of my trees snapped and a big chunk of it, the top of the tree came off and it's on the ground. And one of my hedges out front snapped in half. So it's a mess out here. It really is. So y'all, we're gonna talk about something that we really didn't talk about before. We're talking about the white immigrants that are detained by ICE. So they pretty much are going through a lot of the same thing. They appear in court. When they walk out of court, they get detained by ICE. Some of them are getting detained at their homes. Some are the first one you're going to hear is a woman whose daughter, she's from the UK, went to her green card interview, and when she was done, this British woman got detained by ICE. So, yes, it is happening to them. It's all about what the media in this country is willing to show. And apparently, they got an issue with showing white immigrants getting detained. And they are giving you the false illusion that it's only Black and Latino immigrants that are being detained. They want to show you all of that. They don't have no problem showing you all that. But when it's a white immigrant, they don't want to show it at all. So you're going to see and hear some of the actual um, immigrants that were detained. Some of them are people just given the account of what happened to them. And just like many, some of them even lost their lives in those detention centers. So, that's why Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, they want to give absolute immunity to ICE agents, and whatever happens to people in these detention centers, they don't want lawsuits. But somehow, I think somewhere down the line, they're going to have to deal with lawsuits, whether they want to or not. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And some of these people are also from Canada that were detained. And not all of them were immigrants. One woman, you're going to hear her about her. She came over here as a tourist. She was coming to visit America, and she got detained by ICE. And I believe that was a woman from the UK. So, yeah, I mean, I've been seeing the stories. They grabbed some Germans. I've seen Ukrainians, Russians. There's one woman that was from France. Yeah, I mean, so they're not being spared at all. So let me share my screen. Shalom to everybody in the chat. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you.
When she came out of the meeting, they detained her. They arrested her in front of her husband and her baby. Stephen's in pieces. He rang his mum, he couldn't even tell her. She couldn't understand what he was saying, but he said they've taken Katie. I understand that she was easy pickings, but apparently all these new stricter rules. 41 people were arrested yesterday. When Katie was detained, there was 5 people at the same time detained. 5 people ripped away from their families. Literally, nobody can get to see her. She's locked up like a criminal. My little girl, she's 33 years old. You detained my little girl in front of her husband and her baby. and you have locked her up. And I am raging at the injustice of it because she's done everything right.
An innocent British grandmother was detained by ICE for 6 weeks in prison in shackles because, oh, wait till you hear this story. This is sickening, guys, what we did and what the Brits did. The British government blew her off and left her alone. Karen Newton, 65-year-old grandmother, decided to take the trip of a lifetime. It's like freaking Westworld, the trip of a lifetime to America and Canada. So she goes with her husband, who's 66. They're retired. They go to the US. They go to Yellowstone. They see the geysers. They're so excited. They had so much fun. They decide to go to Canada. They get a car. They get to the border. And the Canadians say, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't fill out the right paperwork to bring a car across. We've got to send you back to America. So they turn around and the Americans say, wait a minute. And they check the husband's visa had expired already, right? Now, bad that his visa expired. And she basically thought, oh, well, she goes, he's a Brit. Hopefully he'll be okay. But her visa was still fine, her tourist visa. Well, they grabbed both of them because she was his accomplice, they said. And she's like, accomplice? What did I do? They take them and imprison them for 6 weeks. Shackles. They put shackles on their wrists, shackles on their waist, shackles on their feet. You know, the things where they're all handcuffed and the chain so you walk like a penguin? British grandmother. They imprisoned her for 6 weeks, didn't let her see her husband for 3 weeks, never once told her what she did. The only thing they said was, you were his accomplice. She goes, what do you mean I'm his accomplice? She goes, I've got my visa. They goes, you helped him pack his luggage. Guys, she slept on the floor of her prison cell for 6 weeks. And she said, and by the way, she said, don't go to this country. Don't ever go to America while Donald Trump is there. And she's right. I have warned people about this. People said, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is you get detained for, and by the way, she wasn't arrested, so she doesn't get a lawyer. She didn't have a right to an attorney even because she wasn't arrested. She was just simply detained for a short while by ICE. And the Supreme Court is making this legal. This is what we're doing to people. And by the way, Americans, big study now from CNN, the number of Americans getting arrested and detained by ICE, huge growing number of innocent Americans getting grabbed by ICE now because you look like a foreigner. But this is what we did. 65-year-old grandmother here on a legal tourist visa for the trip of a lifetime. And we threw her in prison for 6 weeks. Couldn't call anybody, couldn't call a lawyer because her husband's visa had expired. So they threw her in prison for 6 weeks. Anybody who comes to this country now, business or pleasure, is nuts. This is sick stuff.
I was reapplying for my work visa in the immigration office. I was doing everything completely legally. They said, you need to reapply through the consulate and we need to send you back to Canada. And in my head, I thought that meant, okay, I'm just getting on a plane and going home. And I was taken. No explanation. It felt like I had been kidnapped. 30 of us in one cell, just like a line of bunks and then open showers and toilets. And every single time I asked a question, it was, I'm not your case officer. I don't know. I'm just doing my job. We nicknamed them the ice boxes. We're huddled, trying to stay warm, wrapped in these aluminum foils, looking like dead bodies. Fluorescent lights are shining 24/7. One of the girls had her period and there was blood everywhere. This nurse comes in and she's like, pregnancy test. She made us pee in front of each other into these Dixie cups. We're all just standing there in a circle, holding our open urine. And she's plopping these pregnancy tests in and then being like, okay, you guys are going to chuck it back in the toilet. I got woken up in the middle of the night and they're like, Jasmine, you're leaving. I jumped up. I'm like, I'm going home. And they're like, we're being transferred. Why am I going to Arizona? I begged every single guard for help. Can you please tell anyone, your supervisor, that I would love to pay for my flight home? Just get me out of here. ICE issued a statement saying I was detained for not having legal documentation to be in the US. I do not support anyone being in a country illegally. I had all my paperwork. I was in the immigration office. I was never in the country illegally. They are just grabbing anyone that they can. I had a medical check and I had to go visit this nurse. She could tell that I was distraught and confused. And she looked at me And she goes, "Can I pray for you?" And she says this like beautiful prayer in Spanish that I have no idea what she was saying. And I just cried and I cried and I cried and she just held my hands and I was like, okay, I'm going to get through this. I was transferred back to the San Diego prison. Just grabbed me and said, "You're coming with me this way." Stripped the chains off of me quickly, snuck me into the airport, escort me onto the plane, sit me down, and they're like, "Okay, you're free. You can use your cell phone now. Take care." I was so lucky to have only been in there for 2 weeks. Can you imagine someone in the system that doesn't have my privilege, all the lawyers, all the money, all my connections? Majority of the women that I met have been in there for months. I received a 5-year ban from America. Everyone asked me, they're like, "Well, you're never going to go back, are you?" I'm appealing. I want to go back. I love America. Your government is funding a system that doesn't follow any rules.
Треба бути вдома. She's happy to be home.
But Victoria Bolavina is shaken. She says that she spent 3 days in the
You notice, despite everything that happened to her and she cried about, she says she would still come back to America. You know why? Because right now, Canada is going through a pretty bad economic downturn. And if you remember, when our people were in food lines during the government shutdown, I showed you on live stream the food lines that were going on up in Canada. There is a large amount of people in Canada that's unemployed and can't find work in Canada. So when these immigrants from Canada come here, that's what they're looking for. They're just like anyone else. They're looking for jobs and they're looking for the stability that they can't find up there in Canada. Canada is struggling. A lot of people don't realize that they are not doing well up in Canada at all. So, yeah, she definitely would come back despite the fact that she went through hell, but they told her she can't come back for 5 years, and that's happening to a lot of immigrants deported. They're being told, I had one that said they can't come back for 25 years. I mean, that is like you might as well just stay in your country and forget about coming back here. But yeah, they are setting boundaries on how long these people must stay away before they can even try to come back here. But that's what's going on. All right, let's continue.
downtown ICE holding facility after being detained during her green card interview.
Was no opportunity to sleep, to change your clothes, to brush your teeth, shower, nothing for 3 days.
Her husband translates her description of the cold conditions, expired food, and no privacy.
The toilet that's inside the room, there's a window for the guards to see on the door. So it is uncomfortable. So the women would stand up around the one who needed to use the bathroom.
They shared the notice to appear that she received when she was released. It says that she overstayed her authorization, but the couple and her attorney say that she complied with all immigration procedures.
You remaining in the United States beyond September 15, 2024 without authorization. This is not true.
It has been confirmed that approximately 55 Canadians have been detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE operations have been under increased scrutiny since the White House Deputy Chief of Staff announced that ICE officers would target at least 3,000 arrests per day, up from 650 a day during the first 5 months of Trump's second term. And the news comes after a Canadian citizen died in ICE custody on June 23rd, though no details surrounding his death have been shared with the public.
Hi everyone, my name is Anastasia Polo. I represent Ukrainian community here in America. And I want to share this story with all my American friends here and all Americans who will listen and watch this video. So please share as much as you can.
Я хочу з вами поділитися ситуацією, в якій я ніколи не була. і просто не знаю, як допомогти своєму чоловіку. Це був самий звичайний день суботи. І просто він їхав, це було Сан-Дієго. Він не знав, що там військове місто. Його просто зупинили на КПП провірити документи. Він їх показав. І вони просто сказали йому сидіти, чекати. Після того прийшли айс-офіцери. Це офіцери, які просто забирають людей в Detention. По-нашому це буде та сама в'язниця. Хоча там перебувають всі емігранти. Забрали його на підставі того, що в нас були нотіси. Ми заплатили за продовження репаролю. І їх це не цікавило. Просто не цікавило, вони забрали мого чоловіка. Він зараз там знаходиться вже, і вони його не випускають. Нам назначили дату суда, і ми маємо просто, я не знаю, що доказувати.
It's crisis already. So the story is a Ukrainian family who live in Orange County. Their father been stopped by the ICE in San Diego. He went there for work. The problem which Ukrainians experience in America for a year already. That's the problem I'm talking about for a couple months already in my blog a lot. All Ukrainians came here legal, apply for their documents, for legal documents to stay here. USCIS is delaying the process with work authorization, reparole, TPS, and that's bringing Ukrainian families to the situation like they are here illegal. But this is not true. And that's how this man became a victim of detention. And that's why ICE probably have no idea what to do with this person, because he has the notice that he paid for reparole, he paid for the documents, and he's waiting for the documents. But he doesn't have the documents on his hands. And that's why ICE took him, put him in detention. Right now, family working with a lawyer to take him out. The wife, who is here in Orange County, staying with two daughters, 5 months and 7 years, and experience stress. She doesn't work. Only father was working for the family. I want all Americans to support us, to share this information. And if you know how to be helpful in this situation, maybe spread the word, maybe reach a congressperson, congresswoman, congressman, reach the president administration and bring this situation up, because we have a advocacy case for Ukrainians, which we call Let Them Work. So this document is asking, please review the documents of Ukrainians and give them permission to stay legal, to keep staying legal in America, because all of them came here legal. Thank you guys for your reposts, for your support. We really appreciate. God bless America. Thank you for help.
Trip turned nightmare. That's how one British father describes his daughter's trip to the U.S. after a visa mix-up at the border. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for the News at 10. I'm David Rose.
And I'm Sabir Rafer. That mix-up has landed the young woman in an ICE detention facility in Tacoma, where she still is tonight. Fox 13 reporter Nia Wong has been following this case. She's joining us from the newsroom with what we know so far.
Paul Burke says his daughter's current conditions at the Northwest Detention Center are deeply concerning, and she's been there for nearly 2 weeks. As they reach out to British leaders, they are asking for help in the States to help bring Becky back home. A desperate father in the United Kingdom opened this Facebook post on March 8th, saying his daughter, Becky Burke, had been on a 4-month backpacking trip when she was detained by ICE on February 26th. The cartoonist had been sharing her adventures on her Instagram account, where she stayed in Portland, then Seattle, before heading up to the Canadian border. Paul Burke says she was denied entry into Canada due to an incorrect visa, and when she tried to go back to the U.S., was refused re-entry and classified as a, quote, illegal alien.
This is very heavy-handed.
Abdin Bahadur is an attorney for Ryan Swanson in Cleveland in Seattle.
The immigration laws are not something to ask forgiveness for later.
Burke's father says she was on a tourist visa, and her social media account shows she participated in Workaway, a cultural exchange, according to the Workaway website, that expects participants to help around 5 hours per day in exchange for food and accommodation. ICE confirmed Burke is still being held at the Northwest ICE Processing Center related to the violation of the terms and conditions of her admission. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it can't discuss specific cases, only saying on background, quote, individuals who travel to the U.S. under the visa waiver program are not allowed to work for any type of compensation. That includes work in exchange for room and board.
while Bahadur says it is the responsibility of the traveler to know the rules.
The agency could definitely show more compassion, more grace.
Bahadur has also been the liaison with Customs and Border Protection for Washington State with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. In his 5 years of holding the position, he believes that CBP officers could have made another choice.
If the CBP officer, the Customs and Border Protection officer at the border, had wanted to, they could have probably arranged it to say, you know what, do you have the financial ability to buy a plane ticket home? Okay, there's tons of flights every day out of SeaTac to Europe. They could have just placed her on that plane, let her go home, and let her voluntarily depart from the United States.
Here's what a man who was detained by ICE at a protest says things are like inside the Minnesota ICE detention center.
There was one point they were looking for one particular gentleman for probably about 15, 30 minutes. They kept circling, going, we have no idea where this man is. It's like, it's not a big facility. It's relatively small. You'd be surprised that they would lose an individual in there, and kept coming and asking us if we knew where they were. And then during interrogation, there were questions like, I remember specifically being asked, do you know who detained you? Do you know the arresting officer? So that's no, I don't know the arresting officer. Well, what did he look like? I'm like, did he give you his name? No, he didn't give me his name. Everybody's got masks on. I can't see. It's completely obvious that these guys are not set up, not prepared, and have no idea what they're doing in this moment. And it's very chaotic.
A Ukrainian family needs your help. This photo of Daniela, this is a baby. She was born just last Thursday. She's named after her father, Daniel, who was not there to witness her birth because he's currently detained in an ICE detention center in Texas. Daniel came to the United States through the U4U program, which is Uniting for Ukraine program. It was a humanitarian parole program that was introduced back in April of 2022 for Ukrainians who are fleeing the war to come safely to the United States. That's how Daniel and his family came to the U.S. So he came here legally, even had a work permit, and he was working, paying his taxes, except when he went to renew or reapply for that status, there was a pause in all humanitarian parole programs earlier this year that resulted in the delay of his renewal, leaving him undocumented. So when he was pulled over in Texas, because he's a long-haul truck driver, there was a routine check for all commercial vehicles. Authorities down in Texas saw that his parole program had been expired, so he was taken into custody, and that was 7 months ago. It was an emotional homecoming for a BC woman who had been detained at an ICE detention center for nearly 2 weeks.
I'm still, to be honest, really processing everything. I haven't slept in a while and haven't eaten proper food in a while, so I'm just really going through the motions. Getting back here was it's just been a lot.
Jasmine Mooney says she attempted to enter the U.S. from Mexico at the San Diego border crossing on March 3rd. She said she tried to apply for a temporary visa for a job in the U.S., but that was denied. She was then detained by ICE and taken to a detention center in California for 3 days. She was then transported to another facility in Arizona. And after an 11-day ordeal, Jasmine was finally released and got on a flight back to Vancouver.
From the second I got there to now, like, I can't even process what just happened because there was no heads up. Next thing you know, I'm taken and for 2 weeks haven't been told anything, moved in different cells, sleeping on cement, sleeping in different jail cells. I was given no heads up of anything that was about to transpire. On the way back, I had the guards that brought me, they looked through all my paperwork and they were very confused as well.
Mooney also shedding light on what she describes as inhumane conditions inside these ICE detention centers. She said at one point she had to share a cell with 30 other women with no blanket. The lights were on 24/7 and she had limited access to the bathrooms. She also had very little communication with her family and her immigration lawyer.
I do not wish it upon anyone. No one deserves to go through that. It was really, really hard the first few days, but then when I got to know everyone else in there and heard all of their stories and how long they were in there, I was like, okay, I'm not allowed to feel sorry for myself at all because every single person in here is in a way worse situation than me. So I just spent the rest of my time trying to console and help as many women as I could, because there was one girl that was in there for 10 months.
The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says Mooney was processed in accordance with President Trump's executive order that subjected, quote, all aliens in violation of U.S. immigration law to possible arrest. From YVR Airport, Cecilia Hua, City News.
Right here, they have a Russian man that they found this morning as they're going out. I would not think the first people we were going to find today was going to be a Russian.
You know what? They come in all colors.
Vladimir's going to go take him back. And while we were waiting, other ICE agents had identified a vehicle with 5 illegal migrants, and watch what happened when they go to try and make the arrest.
All right, go ahead. We'll take it out. Walk. Let's take it out.
Where all the protesters showed up. Whoa. Jeez. All the people jumped out of the car. They all started running. 5 different people, 5 different ways. They didn't catch any of them. They're running right now. We didn't get the guys, but we did get their car keys.
Yes, sir.
And how often does that happen when you guys hop out on somebody that they all get loose?
If we don't catch up to them, we'll normally try to go back and see if there's any type of identification that fell out of them.
And click right here for the rest of the video.
Nearly 150 Canadians have been detained by ICE officers this year, so 149. That is on pace to double the number of Canadians detained when we look at the entirety of 2024. For a closer look at these detentions, I'm joined in studio by Catherine Blaisbaum with the Globe and Mail. Good morning to you. Good morning. You know, I have 3 children. I know what they're like when they're little. I mean, thinking about the fact that these 2 children, they're little, under the age of 4 years old, held in these facilities. Who are these kids? What do we know about them? And what do we know about the conditions? I, too, am a mom of 3, and it was horrifying reading through details about the facility where they were being held. So what we do know is that these 2 children were held for weeks. One of them held for more than 7 weeks at a facility in South Texas that is at the center of allegations of not providing adequate drinking water, mothers who can't access formula for their babies, no soap to clean their bottles, children who don't have toys, guards taking, a doll away from a little girl, no access to medical treatment or reduced access to medical treatment. So very challenging circumstances for these families, including these 2 Canadian children. We do know that both of them have been released. They were detained separately. These are 2 separate families, we understand, based on the data. Both detained in May, one released a couple weeks later, and then the other one, the data showed that this person and their grown-up, along with another child, were released in mid-July. Do you know why they were detained, like what the reason was? What we do know, based on the data analysis, is that they were detained with what appear to be grown-ups. We don't know if they are their mothers, but in the case of one of the children, it was a Bolivian mother, and the other, it was a Congolese woman, and it appears that they were picked up for what are known as other immigration violations, so no criminal record, but rather some other immigration violation. And they have been placed into what are described as expedited removal proceedings with a credible fear referral. So they are claiming what does that mean? Yeah, they are claiming that if they are sent home, that they fear persecution. Got it. And now, we don't know what happened to them. We don't know where they are. We are actively trying to find them. They're just one of many people who are being held right now. Speaking of many people, how many Canadians are still in custody? Current to the end of July, 56 Canadians were still being detained who had been arrested under the Trump administration. Why? Do we know? Why do we know? Well, a variety of reasons. The most common reason is due to criminal charges. So under American immigration law, if you have a criminal record, even if it's something from the 80s, and it could be possession of a drug, if you are a non-US resident, you are at risk of being removed from the country. And so for 70% of these Canadians, that is some version of what they are being detained for, a criminal record. For the other 30%, it could be things like an overstay of a visa, or perhaps they crossed between border crossings, sort of an irregular crossing, it's described as. Where are they being held, these Canadians? These Canadians are being held across, it was a lot of data analysis. Shout out to Mahima at the Globe and Mail. It was crazy. As you can see on this map, they are spread across 34 facilities in the United States, concentrated in the South. These include privately run facilities, county jails, state prisons that are not meant to hold immigration detainees, but under the Trump administration have entered into agreements with ICE to hold people like these Canadians. What kind of action has Global Affairs Canada taken? That's a great question, and it is entirely opaque. We have asked them time and time again, ever since a Canadian died in custody at the end of June in Miami. All that they will really say is, we are providing consular assistance. We can't tell you anything else, citing privacy concerns. They wouldn't even give us a snapshot of where these people were located or a range of age or anything that might give any indication of who these Canadians are. And that's why it took us going through data that was obtained through freedom of information litigation by people in the United States through litigation to figure out where the Canadians are. Really unbelievable. Thank you for amazing reporting, Catherine Blaisbaum with the Globe and Mail. We appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Hey team, I want to introduce you to Vika. Vika is a woman that lives here in Plymouth, and she loves dogs. She loves cooking. She's happily married. She loves to travel. She's very goofy and outspoken, and very hardworking. And she is also in a detention center right now because as she was on her way to work, she was surrounded by ICE in a parking lot and detained. She is here from Ukraine and she is an asylum seeker. So she's going through the process of trying to seek refugee status. She was detained, I think, about 4 weeks ago. She went to a detention center in Texas. She got COVID there and got really, really sick. Eventually, it sounds like she's been transferred now to New Mexico. And this is, last I talked to her husband, week 3 or 4 that she's been detained. They are trying to collect funds to help her go through the legal process of being able to be reunited with her husband and come back here to Minnesota. I'm going to post a link to their GoFundMe. If you don't like donating to GoFundMe, because they do take a piece, I will put up on an image of my Venmo, and you can send me money directly and I will send her husband money directly. They are working through the process and I'm really hopeful that she can get out. I can't imagine what it's like to be detained that long. From what I heard from her husband, it's very jail-like, especially where she is in New Mexico. So just one of the many, many stories of asylum seekers, refugee folks that have been taken on their way to work. You know, I know that a lot of my friends that are not in Minnesota have messaged me saying, like, is this really happening? It's really happening. So I just wanted to share this story. If you'd like to donate to their family to help out, that would be awesome. If you're seeing this on TikTok, she also makes TikToks, so I will tag her account.
Excuse me, sir, what country are you from? My public culture. How did you get here? Don't answer this question. You don't know how you got there? What's your reaction to ICE detaining you now? What's your reaction to being detained? Excuse me, sir, what country are you from? How'd you get here? Sir, what country are you from? The country. Where? How'd you get here? What's your reaction to being detained now? Mister.
Kung tiene que responder una pregunta de hijo, cuando hay tipo
A Canadian man has died in ICE custody. Professor Poutine here, time for Mysteries Histories. Johnny Noviello, a 49-year-old Canadian citizen who is legally in the United States, was arrested by ICE and detained on drug trafficking charges. While in detainment, he died. Early reports seem to indicate it was a heart attack, but more reporting on that is to come. This is the 6th death since May in ICE custody, along with over 400 911 calls since January, detailing all sorts of serious medical complications, pregnancies, suicides, assaults, including guard on inmate and inmate on inmate. And that's just the ones that are reporting. Most civil rights activists believe that the number is far, far higher than that. And you may be saying to yourself, well, so be it. They're in the country illegally. They deserve what they get. Well, keep in mind that being in the United States illegally is a civil offense, not a criminal one. The only way it's a criminal offense is if you have been deported and then you re-enter the country, then it becomes a federal offense. And also keep in mind that of all the people that have been detained by ICE, less than 10% of them have anything remotely serious in terms of a conviction. The vast majority of them have nothing more serious than a traffic violation or simply being in the country illegally. And remember, whether someone is legally in the country or undocumented in the country, people still deserve human rights. Share this video with as many people as possible. Let's get that word out. Let's try and open up those ICE facilities to more stringent scrutiny. Consider yourself updated.
All right. No, those men were from Georgia. You know, it's a little country inside of Russia. So that's where they were from. That's what they were saying with their heavy accents. So anyway, y'all, you can see these folks are getting detained. They are absolutely not getting spared at all. They are not getting no exception whatsoever. And it should be that way. If you're getting everybody else out, these Europeans and Canadians and anybody else that came here illegally or overstayed their visas, they should go too. It is what it is. Right? That's the way I see it. So, yeah, you know, many of these people wouldn't tell the story unless the people look just like them. You know how it is. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. I deeply appreciate it. And we'll definitely come back on a whole new topic. Shalom, family.